Okay, so to start with, let's go ahead. I'm going to give you the equation for this. This would be something that would be given. The equation, which is h of t is going to equal negative 5t minus 2 squared plus 70. So the first thing we always have to do when we're talking about these is let's identify the variables, our traditional x and y. Now, normally inside here you would be having that variable x, but it's not. Inside there is now being identified as t, correct? So that means that the x value represents the time. Now, the other thing to pay attention to is this function named h. Whenever you're having this, our output here, meaning our y value, will be height. The idea of what this parabola is you are somewhere on this cliff, you are shooting your arrow up, and how long will it be till it touches the ground? All right, so we identified our variables. Let's talk about domain and range here because it's a little bit interesting. The domain must be from the time must be greater than 0. But remember that the time is going to end when the arrow hits the ground. So we're going to have to find that. And the range or our height, we're going to have to find out the maximum height, which is already included in our question. That's part A. But the range also will not be below ground. So it cannot be less than 0. And we're going to go find those numbers at the end. All right, so the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is answer the question, how high does the arrow reach? Well, in this case, remember that is going to be the maximum, right? And how do we find the maximum of any parabola or minimum? Well, that value at the top is going to be the vertex. So this is in vertex form. Vertex form of a parabola is just going to be hk. So vertex of this is going to be 270. Now remember what I said before, the 2 is the time and the 70 is the height. So how high does the arrow reach? It has a maximum of 70 meters. That takes 2 seconds to make that happen. The next question says, how long before it hits the ground? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my x and y into this graph that I had drawn before. So I start here. So this is my y-axis. This is my x-axis with that vertex. I know that I started here at 50 meters. My vertex, I already said, that happens over here at 2 seconds when x is 2. So my vertex hits the point here at 270, which means my height here is at 70. So just as a summary, whenever these graphs are saying how high does it reach, that's always going to be your maximum. How low would be your minimum? Both of those are referred to by the vertex. And how long before it hits the ground? The ground is 0. We can't go below ground. That's when the function is equal to 0. So that's when you're looking for that the x-intercept. So this is asking us to do a maximize profit equation. So it's going to be a parabola equation. Maximize is going to be a vertex of a parabola that looks like this. When we are talking about a profit equation, the profit of anything is equal to the revenue minus the cost. So our revenue is given to us by this $300 that they can rent for all of its room per night. That is the revenue of the function. The cost of the function is the fact that each rented room costs the hotel $10 a day to service. Now, this is a pretty simplified question. This doesn't cover a lot of information that also would be here in the real world, but we're going to write it right now this way. So to start with, we're going to start with the revenue. The revenue is 300 rooms at $80 a night. So for each of the 300 rooms, they are bringing in a total of $80 minus the cost. And this is for each rented room, so be careful here. It's not listing the fact that we have the $300 over again, but I have to subtract out 300 from the 10. Now we needed to break this up this way because it's asking me to do something here. Now it's saying for each additional night, there $1 is increased for rent, but 3 fewer rooms are rented. All right, so this is what this looks like. So the 300 from here now becomes 300 minus 3 fewer rooms, but instead of it being $80 a night, it is $80 plus X. All right, so let me break that down one more time. So it is for each $1 increase in rent, that means that the rent, the $80, gets increased X times. So if it got increased 5 times, that X would be 5. But as that happens, there are 3 fewer rooms which are rented. So that instead of it being $300 for the total number of rooms it's rented, it would be 3 times whatever that X was. Now, the cost also changes. The cost is 300 minus 3X because that portion doesn't change. How the 300 changes, it's still going to be 3 fewer rooms, but the cost per room doesn't change. So now I have this profit equation, and I'm going to go ahead and simplify all of that out. I do that by... So there's a nice little fun trick that I can do with this. You can multiply all of this out if you want to and combine like terms. You will get the same answer. But if you look, you will see that what you have is this 300 minus 3X here and here are really the same thing as a greatest common factor. So I'm going to pull that out front and leave that as 300 minus 3X. And then what I would be left with would be 80 plus X minus 10. So my profit equation is equal to 300 minus 3X times 70 plus X. Like I said, go ahead and multiply that all out. You will get the same answer. So I am going to multiply this out, and you can verify that if you did it differently. If you multiply that out, you're going to get the fact that you get negative 3x squared plus 90x plus 2100. And again, you'd have to FOIL that out. Now, vertex. How do I get the vertex? When it's in this form, the vertex of any parabola is just negative b over 2a, and I need that because I'm looking for the daily maximum. So to get that, that's going to be negative 90 over 2 times 3, which gives us a vertex value at 90 divided by 6, which gives us 15. Now I want to find that value, so I take this and I plug 15 back into my equation. So now negative 3 times 15 squared plus 90 times 15 plus 2100 will go ahead and give us a profit of $21,675. So this is fantastic. I have the maximum profit, which is fine, but the question is not that. The question is also, how much should the hotel charge per room? So we have the maximum, how much the profit is, but how much should it charge per room? Well, we are saying that X should equal 15, correct? So what that means is it should be the $80 that you started with, that was the amount of money per night, plus 15 extra dollars. So what the hotel should charge, it needs to charge $95 per room, and that will give you your maximum profit of your $21,675.